Should I buy a house during a recession? This is a step-by-step guide. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Jeff Trevarthen here, Jeff the Mortgage Pro. Today we're looking at a really cool topic of should I buy a house during a recession? So let's kind of define what a recession is first before we get into this. The technical definition is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. So the GDP is going down of 2 consecutive quarters. That's changed. It changed in 2022 because we had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP in a row, but they didn't like the definition of that we were in a recession. So they kind of made up their own rules and decided whether we were in a recession or not. So the National Bureau of Labor Statistics is the one that will announce whether or not we are in a recession or not. It sure feels like it with unemployment as it continues to start rising here in 2023 and the retail sales continue to decline. So those are all indications that we may be in a recession, but we don't know. You could be in a recession for a long time, but until they actually announce that we're in a recession, it's always, looking in the past to determine whether we're in a recession or not. So it's always hard to tell whether we're in one or not unless they've actually announced that we're in a recession. But today we're looking at the topic of buying a home in a recession, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what a recession actually is. So at the time of this recording, we've had a couple different bank failures, and we've had some huge wild swings in the market. So it certainly feels like we're in a recession right now, but again, we haven't announced that we are in a recession. Let's look at the pros of buying a house when the United States economy is actually in a recession. There's 3 of them here. So we can potentially have a decrease in home values. Because there's so much volatility, people don't always want to sell when they're in a recession. So the prices of properties tend to go down. And that helps us as buyers because we can actually find properties that may be affordable for us as there becomes more properties on the market. So the reason why prices go down is that there are often more properties that come on the market. And when you get more properties on the market, it's because people lost their jobs or they're getting divorced. There's multiple things that contribute to a rising amount of inventory when you're in a recession. Okay. The second pro, there's a lower likelihood of getting into a bidding war. So because there are more properties on there on the market when you're in a recession, typically, that means that there's more houses for buyers to bid on. And if there's more houses for buyers to bid on, that means less of a competition of the particular house that you want. In some instances, I've still seen even during like the 2008, 2009 recession where there was multiple offers on houses just because they were super desirable and they were for a great price. So the benefit of buying a house during a recession is that you won't always have to compete as hard as you did in 2020, 2021, and 22 to be able to buy a home. And then the third pro of buying a home, you have an ability to refinance in the future. Usually when you're going into recession, high interest rates prevail. And this has been especially true over the 2022, 2023 timeframe where interest rates went up 3 to 3.5% from their early January lows of 3 to 3.5%. So now you're looking at interest rates anywhere from 6 to 7.5%, 8% in some instances. So the idea is that if you can get a property for a little bit cheaper, there's the opportunity for you to refinance down the road, because when we're in recession, what the Federal Reserve has to do is stimulate the economy, and that means they have to stimulate lending. So they ease lending standards once you're in a recession. So that typically means lower interest rates going forward because they want more people to borrow money in a recession. Okay, so that'll help you out. So those are 3 pros of buying in a recession. Let's look at some of the cons during a recession. So you do have high interest rates. So right now at the time of this recording, somewhere between 6.5% and 7.5% is your mortgage interest rate right now. And those are for optimal financing. Like that's a really good loan to be able to get right now. Do we think it's going to be that high forever? Absolutely not. They're going to come down at some point here, hopefully within 2023, early 2024. We don't know exactly when they're going to come down, but they do, and they will come down. It just feels like they won't when you're in the midst of it. There tends to be a floor on any price decreases. So that's another con when you're doing this, because people don't want to go too far. They don't want want to go underwater when they're lowering their price. They still want to try to make sure that they get a profit. Now, what happened in the 2008 recession was that prices went so far down that you had short sales. And once you have a short sale, that means that the property is selling for less than what you owe on the property. And when that happens, you have to negotiate with the bank to whether they're going to be able to let you do that or not. Those could take 6, 8, 10 months to be able to do a short sale on a property. So for the most part, if a property owner doesn't need to move and they can still lower their price a little bit, but if it goes too low, they're just going to be like, no, I'm not going to sell. I'll just hang on to it until the prices go back up, because they could go back up with the way that inflation is running. Another con is that inventory is slim currently, and also during most recessions, it's like that. The only one where it really wasn't like that was 2008, where you had a humongous crash in real estate prices, which was actually brought on by the mortgage meltdown, basically. So all the other recessions are typically not based on a mortgage meltdown, and the one that may be coming towards us here in 2023 is definitely not because of a mortgage meltdown. The lending standards are actually really tight. It has to do more with bank liquidity, Federal Reserve, and inflation that could be the driver of this next recession. And then the last thing of con of buying a home is that there's a lack of job or income security, and especially if you work in the tech sector. So tech is one of those things that's like a leading indicator. When you start seeing a lot of tech layoffs, that means we probably are going into a recession. That's the cutting edge of technology going forward. And when that happens, especially if you work in the tech industry, you don't know if you're going to have a job or not. So you may not want to buy a property because the property value could go down. You may lose your job. Maybe it'll not make your payment going forward. And if you are going to buy a property in a recession and you are in tech, just make sure you have plenty of reserves left over. How far can you make that mortgage payment before you have to dig into your savings or investments to be able to go forward before something goes really wrong? Okay. So those are the pros and the cons of buying a house during a recession. If you do me a huge favor, if you like this video, please smash the like button right down below me. And then in the description, you'll see a link to my link tree in there. And then if you click on Linktree, you click on Calendly, and Calendly, you can schedule an appointment with me. I'd love to chat with you about whether or not you're going to buy a home this year during a recession when it comes, and what are the pros and cons for you of buying that home. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.